What's going on, you guys? Theo here with the big review, back yet again with another King of Fighters Allstar video, and today we are going to be taking a look at the maintenance and update notices for the Boss Syndrome events and breaking them all down so that you guys know what to expect with the upcoming update. But before we jump into all of that and more, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe, and let's go ahead and get straight into it. So there are going to be two different notices that we're going to be breaking down here, both of which are going to reiterate several bits of information, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to try and break all this stuff down as best we possibly can. So as you guys can see here, there is going to be, and you guys have probably already seen this, but there is going to be a new skill showcase trailer for the Boss Syndrome Volume 2 banner. We are going to talk about that towards the end of this breakdown. We'll come back to this guy, but a lot of really cool information and footage here that we're going to talk about. So the first thing that we're going to kind of discuss is the fact that we now have confirmation on the typing for both of the new Boss Syndrome characters, that being Chrysalid and Geese Howard. So as you can see here, and we had talked about this yesterday, we had theorized that they were going to be a green and a yellow and a purple unit rather. And basically, as you can see here, they are going to be a yellow but also a green unit. So as you can see, Chrysalid is going to be a yellow balance, Geese is going to be a green attack, and this is pretty interesting for a lot of different reasons. So first up here, for Geese Howard being a green attack type, that is going to be a very nice benefit to him already. I'm super excited to see what his kit brings, but being that he's an attack type, he will slot in perfectly with a lot of different characters. As far as Chrysalid is concerned, as you can see, a yellow balance. Now, some people that are big Chrysalid fans might be upset by the fact that he is a balance type. However, keep in mind that with that typing, he could potentially bring the best in slot leadership skill for balance types along with him, which would be an increase to attack and power charge. So we'll have to wait and see, but if he has that leadership skill by default already as a Boss Syndrome character, he is going to be highly sought after. So we'll have to wait and see there, but time will tell. We don't have any confirmation. Now, things we do have confirmation on here, and these are some big things. So we now know that the Boss Syndrome characters are going to be broken up into two separate banners for both the characters and their respective cards, and they are going to be Boss Syndrome Volume 1 and Volume 2. So we had kind of assumed that, and now we have confirmation. We also know that this event will be going on for quite a while compared to the last Boss Syndrome update, and we're going to talk about that as well. So these are going to be the new cards added in for the two new characters for Volume 2. It's looking like Geese is going to have Rashomon EX, and then you're going to have Lightning Disaster for Chrysalid, as well as a new option card called Twisted Truth, and the new set cards are going to be called the City of Darkness set. So we'll have a brief glimpse at those in that trailer that we come back to, so kind of stay tuned for that. But this is where you start to get into confirmation that these are going to be broken up into two separate banners. So as you can see here, we are going to be getting both Rugal and Orochi back, as well as the cards from that original run, as you'll see here. And then, of course, confirmation of how long this stuff will be with us. We are going to have these things until 5/18, which is a big deal. The last time we had a Boss Syndrome event, we only had about a week, give or take a day or two, and so now we are going to have plenty of time to pick these up. Now, do keep in mind that your free rubies that you get for the login streak currently will have ended well before this, so keep that in mind, but I have a hard time believing that many people are going to still have those rubies by that time, but definitely something to kind of remember there. But overall, this is just going to be a reiteration of what is involved with both of those Boss Syndrome banners, and this is where we start to get into some of the other things that they're updating. So they are going to be adding in what they call a Hall of Fame, which really looks like just a new tab at the bottom corner of the Battle tab, where your championship, your Infinite Battle, your League, and so on and so forth are, and you're basically going to be able to click on that, and then you'll be able to see a detailed tier of all the top players in each one of those individual modes. So for those of you who are big into the competitive scene, this will be kind of cool for you. You can kind of get a little bit more shine this way, I suppose, but that's basically what they're pointing out there. Now, they are going to also mention that we are getting new imprint stones. This is very interesting and something that they go into finer detail in that next tab that we're going to talk about. but basically it's looking like we are going to have 2 different versions of Boss Syndrome stones. So we will have the original stones that came with the original characters, and then we are also going to get Volume 2 stones. They don't give us any details on if this is indeed going to be completely different stones or not, nor do they give us any information on what they do. But this is something that we can kind of glean from this, and we'll come back to this in that next tab that we kind of go over. But next up, there are going to be new events. We are going to get a new rush dungeon called A Disturbance in Southtown. This is extremely exciting for me because it's sounding like Geese is going to be at the forefront of this one. And then we are going to have a new Advent dungeon called the False Calamity Orochi X Yamada no Orochi. So this is going to have its own way of crafting items. That'll be interesting because you'll be able to earn coins to craft things. I do wonder what those craftable items will be. I'm assuming that it'll probably be boxes for some of the Boss Syndrome stones, but being that they did leave out any mention of Boss Syndrome memories for generic memories in this entire update, I do wonder if this will be a way that we can get these memories, but we'll have to wait and see. We have no confirmation whatsoever. Next up, we are going to have a new fighter selection super mission event that, again, they go into more detail in the next tab, but with this one, it's interesting because it is going to be year-based and it is going to be characters from KOF 97. So it doesn't tell which characters, but we are going to be getting a new fighter selection super mission. And then finally, we will also be getting the Spring Day login streak bonus. And then down here, it is going to also have your packages. Now with these packages, this is kind of your usual fare, kind of what the things that you've come to expect. However, I did go through this with a fine-tooth comb just to confirm, just to make sure, and I do not yet again see any confirmation nor any information whatsoever on generic Boss Syndrome memories in here. So it's not looking like, thankfully, they are going to be behind some sort of paywall yet, but definitely very cool that we don't see these in there. That means that there is still that hope that we will just be able to get those free to play and not have to worry about it. So that's pretty much going to be most of the stuff that's in here, guys. They do go in and mention that there are going to be some content improvements. So kind of as an example, we are going to be getting more inventory slots added for our battle cards as well as our imprint stones. Now with the battle cards, not necessarily the biggest deal because I don't know how many people out there have 1,500 cards that they absolutely have to have, that they couldn't just trim down, but it is nice that they are increasing it, which means that they are going to be coming for more of your rubies, unfortunately. And then the imprint stone inventory slots expanding is a big deal because I know a lot of people have been upset about this. A lot of people have hit the cap and have been selling these stones, so it's very cool that they're expanding this. This will help out quite a bit there. Finally, the one last thing I do want to mention before we move on to that next tab is you will see here that we are going to notice that Lady Geese will be able to use Rashomon EX, which is the new finisher card coming with the Boss Syndrome Geese. So this is very good news for her. She has been hampered severely by not having a 3PG finisher, being that she's a lady character. They used to, whenever they would release the gender bends, not give them 3PG cards. So being that she will now have access, this is a huge boon for her. For those of you who have her, such as myself, and have already invested in her, this will help her out quite a bit. And if you use her and have ever used her in anything, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. So very, very cool, guys. We're going to come back to this trailer. This will be the last thing that we really break down in fine detail here of all this stuff. But the first thing that I want to do before I do that is I want to go back and I want to talk about this last in-depth update notice, and then we will go ahead and do that. So as you can see here, this is going to give us a little bit more information on some of this stuff. So this is going to be as it pertains to that rush dungeon, A Disturbance in Southtown. And as you can see, it is going to be a 3-stage tiered rush dungeon, just like we're used to with any of these guys. You'll be able to farm rush coins, and you will be able to exchange those for certain. So basically, not anything that we aren't used to already. Now, one thing that it does mention here is one of the things that you can exchange for is Boss Syndrome Imprint Stone mystery boxes. So these are not going to be selection boxes, these are going to be mystery boxes. So pretty interesting that we aren't going to be able to just pick the stones that we want. Unfortunately, considering the fact that we are probably going to be getting new Boss Syndrome stones added in with this update as well, on top of the ones that we've already had. So that could be a bit murky. We'll have to wait and see what they all look like, but if these new ones are as good as the old ones, then it probably won't matter much. Now next up, this is just giving us a look at the login bonus. As you can see here, not anything too crazy special. We're going to get some new skill enhancement cards to kind of update our cards and upgrade our cards, so not anything too crazy. These are things we've had in the past for some of these login streaks, so definitely not as good as the 10k free rubies or that generic boss syndrome memory. So next up here, we are going to have a breakdown of the boss syndrome imprint stone selection box method that they are going to be bringing back from that first run. So basically, for those of you who weren't around for that initial run, each time you awaken your boss syndrome character, you can go to your event tab and then you can pick up an imprint stone selection box for one of the boss syndrome stones. Now, they did make a few small tweaks to this that are pretty cool. So first and foremost, basically what you can see here, whenever you upgrade your boss syndrome character to Awakening level 1, you can get a circle imprint stone selection box. Awakening level 2 will get you a square imprint stone selection box, and then Awakening level 3 will get you the hexagon imprint stone selection box. And these are going to be for the volume 2. Again, important distinction, because this indicates that they are probably introducing different boss syndrome stones for these characters, and we don't have confirmation whatsoever if the old ones will be equipable to the new characters or if you would even want to do that, so we'll have to wait and see what they do. But the other thing they're bringing back is for Awakening level 4, you get 20 Elite Enhancement Hammers, which is really cool. But the new thing, it looks like, and I don't remember this from the last time, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments section, but I don't recall this being the case. You get 1,000 rubies reimbursed to you for going to Awakening level 5 on a boss syndrome character. So they're kind of reimbursing you a little bit for your investment on these characters, which is really, really cool. Nice stuff to have. Very happy to see this. Now next up, this is going to be that Advent dungeon. And there's really not a lot of information in here, to be honest with you guys, as far as anything important that we don't already know. So basically what it is telling us is we'll be able to farm Orochi coins so that we can go into the workshop and craft certain items. We don't have confirmation on what those items are as of yet. However, it does mention that if you want to get extra rewards such as enhancement hammers, and you'll notice this right here, you can obtain enhancement hammers for playing with other people. So basically it's telling us that for playing with other people, being that this is going to be a co-op mode in the Advent tab, we get extra enhancement hammers for doing that we wouldn't get for doing it on our own. So pretty interesting. I guess they're trying to incentivize us to play with a party, which shouldn't be a big deal. So that usually, at least from past experience with those co-op mission dungeons, those tended to not be too bad as far as lag goes, but that could also largely come down to your device. But next up, we are going to see the Fighter Selection Super Mission, which is again going to be for a character from KOF 97. We don't know which characters will be in the lineup. It doesn't really mention it. For those of you who have never done one of these, basically you'll log in for the first time. Once this update goes live, you'll be able to pick a character from a lineup of characters to basically focus on in your super mission, and then you'll be able to get things based around that. So, not anything too crazy, things we've seen before. So that is going to be the 428 in-game event notice. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at this trailer, and we're going to break this sucker down and slow it down. So let's go ahead and jump into it, you guys.
俺の名はクリザリット。イースト。
Well, as opposed to that one from yesterday, guys, we got plenty to talk about with this one, because that one didn't show a whole lot. But this one, on the other hand, yeah, quite a bit here. So first and foremost, the character models, which is always a big question mark with this game. You never know how it's going to match up to the promo art. Well, it's looking really good, I would say. We've had this Chrysalid model in the game for a while as a non-playable boss, so we'd already seen that model and knew that looked good. But this geese, on the other hand, all we had for the longest time was data mines that went back for about a year. He has has every skill I was hoping he would have, it looks like. So this Geese, I could not be more hyped to have him. I want this character. So next up, you can see that he is going to have that full screen Raging Storm for his core finisher that we had been wanting, and then they give us a quick little montage of clips of their new finishers, as well as one thing that they don't normally do, which is they show us the card art for all the cards, not just the finishers, which we usually get. So there's the finishers, but then we get the set cards there. That art is looking gorgeous, and then of course what looks to be the option cards. So very, very cool, you guys. We'll discuss this more here in a moment, but I want to go ahead and go over a few things that are about to end before this maintenance, so let's get into that and we'll talk about this. Alright, you guys, we're back here in game, and there is one big thing that is about to end with this maintenance that I want to make sure that you guys are aware of so you do not forget it, and of course it is going to be the Akane dice game. So as you can see here, I am almost finished with mine. I only have to get back around this board about 1.5 more times, so we'll go ahead and do that, and we'll talk about this update before we go ahead and end today's video. But I wanted to remind you guys to finish this because, of course, as we've talked about in the past, you want this Dimensional Invitation purple. So if you have the AP, which that has been the biggest issue with this event in general, has been the AP problem, because it eats up so much of it. I wasted a ton of AP on this, and I guess I shouldn't say wasted, because I definitely want these rewards. They're good rewards. I just really wish that they would have had this around longer than they did. So unfortunately, they decided to end this guy way earlier than a lot of these types of events. So yeah, a bit of a grind, but we were able to get through it, or at least we are about to. So overall, I guess I can't complain, but I would like to see the next time they do this, definitely for them to give us more time. But overall, as far as what we know now, so what we know now about this event is basically that with these characters typing, for instance, and we'll start there. So basically, with Geese being a green attack, we now have 2 Boss Syndrome characters that are going to be green characters, which is pretty interesting to me, because at the end of the day, green was one of the weaker colors for the most part. It still had some very good characters overall, but I would say that it definitely lacked compared to some other colors. But now that it is going to have 2 Boss Syndrome characters, and if we keep getting ones, I swear, dice game, it's fine if you want to give me rubies with those ones, but stop it. But basically, with green now as a color, having 2 Boss Syndrome characters, being Boss Syndrome Orochi and Boss Syndrome Geese Howard, I do think that green is about to be one of the better colors in the game now. As far as yellow is concerned, I do think that a lot of people are probably going to fret over the fact that Chrysalid is going to be a yellow balance before he drops, but do again keep in mind what I talked about at the beginning of this video, which was the fact that depending on what his overall leadership skill is looking like, he may end up being a blessing for balance types for yellow. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. I'm hoping he has a generic leadership skill for balance types. That is my hope overall, because they need it. And there we go. We finally got it. Look at that. Awesome. But I definitely would wait and see on that, and it isn't a kiss of death if he's a balance type. It just isn't as desirable as some other typing out there, but it definitely is not going to make or break him. It's going to be his kit that will do that and decide that. But we are getting a ton of rubies off of this. I cannot complain whatsoever about this. Now, my big question marks kind of to take away from this is going to be what these new Boss Syndrome stones are going to look like. Man, we are getting a lot of rubies. What those next stones are going to look like is going to be a big deal, and I'm very excited to see if those differ in effects. And I'm also interested to see if they are going to implement the generic memories for the Boss Syndrome characters in any way, because they do not mention them whatsoever, and we are getting more rubies. So they don't mention it, so it's interesting. We'll have to wait and see. I'm very excited to see about both of those points. We'll have to wait for tomorrow. I am definitely planning on bringing you guys a summoning video, and we are going to be doing a summoning live stream as far as the YouTuber battle live stream that we will be doing. That should be coming up this Saturday, where myself, Gunny, Rexbleet, Dark Gren, and others are going to be going in on these banners and pulling for these characters. By then, I should already have quite a bit So ought to be interesting, but I will give you guys the full breakdown of everything in tomorrow's video, and then you can look forward to a summoning video on Friday, and then a summoning live stream on Saturday for the YouTuber summoning battle. So overall, going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of content to go over. I'm going to bring you guys spotlights on both of these characters as quick as humanly possible, so stay tuned for all that. But that's going to be today's video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, like, share, and subscribe. Make sure that you get that Akane dice game done if you can before this maintenance. And I will see you guys tomorrow. You all take care. Peace.
Game over.